Father, we are in the midst of a very special time of the year. A holy time. A time when we remember you showing us just how much you love us. God, who created everything, who rules over everything, who can be God whether we exist or not, who is God whether we believe you or not, who is God whether we love you. And you came to us. You came to us so we could be with you forever. Help us to really take that to heart this year. Not just to say, yeah, it's Christmas, Jesus was born, but to really understand how momentous that day was. Nothing has been the same since. Nothing will ever be the same. Because you came to live among us to show us firsthand what God is like, to show us how to love. I can't think of any other word that's just remarkable. That you came here to us. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. Good grief. It's not even Halloween yet, and the stores already have their Christmas displays up. It's sunny and it's 80 degrees outside. How in the world am I supposed to think about Christmas? You hear that complaint all the time, don't we? Christmas, they're rolling Christmas. Christmas comes earlier every single year. Maybe not. I remember a time when I was a kid when Christmas came a lot earlier than it does now. It was right after school started, right after Labor Day. It was still nice outside. And we would walk home from school. We'd get home about 3:45 or so, and we would go to the mailbox, and we'd open it up, and there it was. There it was, the Sears Christmas Wish Book, that glorious magazine that we couldn't wait to get our hands on. And it was still, they were still playing baseball, but Christmas had begun. 600 pages with anything a person could ever want. Everything from underwear to fishing tackle. If it wasn't in that catalog, you simply didn't need it. And once you opened it, you realized there were things you did need that you had no idea about. Best of all, it had an entire section of nothing but toys. Page after page after page of toys. Old toys, new toys. Toys we already had, toys we never heard of. Toys for girls, toys for boys, toys we wanted, toys we didn't want. It didn't make any difference. It was toys. And we couldn't get enough of it. There were 4 of us kids. And we would fight over that magazine like a pack of dogs fighting over a half-eaten pork chop. We would canvass the neighborhood. We usually go to the older folks' homes, the ones we knew didn't have kids anymore. We'd beg them for their copies until we had one for each of us to sit down and peruse. Eventually, the neighbors began to save us the effort. Perhaps it was an attempt to appease my brother and myself, hoping that we wouldn't terrorize them and vandalize their property the remainder of the year. But they began an annual ritual. It was like the wise men on Camelback coming to Bethlehem. They would come down Virginia Street, arrive at our door, and they would kneel and place a copy of the magazine at the doorstep. That precious publication now available to us. And with each of us now possessing our own copy, it was time to put pencil to paper. We would study that book like we never studied anything in school. We'd start constructing our list of the things that we wanted. We didn't pay any attention to that small print at the bottom of each item that told us what the cost was. This was Christmas. There were no financial restraints at Christmas. With Santa Claus, everything was affordable. Things that were unattainable for us the rest of the year were now within our grasp. You see, the elves hadn't been unionized yet. It's cold at the North Pole. They didn't have anything else to do but make toys, so Santa Claus could work them like dogs day and night and pay them peanuts. As long as it would fit on his sleigh and the reindeer could get it airborne, anything we want could be ours. And so our list grew without restraint as we dreamed of Christmas morning and our material lust being fulfilled. Some of you can remember that Christmas catalog, can't you? And then it was followed by the pennies catalog. And then the Montgomery Ward. I think it was one named Spiegel, wasn't there? It was a fantastic time of year. Now you may have heard recently, there's been some guy down at the old bowling alley here in town telling people this. Jesus has a birthday coming up. Matter of fact, it's just a few days away. So question for you, have you got Jesus his birthday present yet this year? And if you haven't, have you at least figured out what it is you're going to get him? Or are you like so many of us and willing to admit that you have absolutely no idea what to get Jesus for his birthday this year or any other year? It's a hard thing. After all, he's God. What do you get as a birthday present for God? What can you get for God that he doesn't already have? God is really, really difficult to shop for. Kids with a Christmas magazine can be extremely materialistic and greedy, but at least they make that list. They make the list, and that kind of makes shopping for them a snap. We know exactly what they want, what they need, and we can go out and purchase it. Wouldn't it be nice if Jesus would do the same thing? That he would just make his list, write it out, and tell us what it is he wants. It might surprise you if I told you that he's actually already done that very thing. He tells us in bright red letters in the book we call the Bible exactly what he wants from us. And not just this year for his birthday, not just for his birthday, but what he wants from us every birthday, every day of the year, each and every year yet to come. It's found in Matthew. It's Matthew chapter 25, beginning in verse 34. Jesus is telling a parable. He's talking about end times and the day of final judgment. And he says, "Then the king will say to those on his right, 'Come, you who are blessed by my Father. Take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me.' And then the righteous will answer him, 'Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or needing clothes and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and go to visit you?' The king will reply, 'Truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me.'" You do it for me. What Jesus is saying here is if we are in a relationship with him, then we have a responsibility to people who really are in need. He's saying that whenever we do something to address human needs and suffering, it is the very same thing as doing it for him. He's saying to us, what do I want for my birthday this year? I want you to do something for someone in need. I want you to do as much as you can for as many people as you can. If you really love me, then show me you love me by loving my people. I want you to love other people and show them your love by your actions. I want you to love people the way I love people when I walked among you. When you do that, you are doing it for me. That's the gift I want from you. We are in the midst of our Advent series based on the book. It's on the back table, by the way, if any of you would like to take it home and read it. It's called Christmas Is Not Your Birthday. It's authored by Reverend Mike Slaughter. He's a Methodist pastor in the state of Ohio, I think somewhere near Cleveland. And he tells us in chapter 4 that we're covering tonight that we serve God when we serve others. That's contained within the mission statement of this church. We love God that way, and when we serve others, we're serving God. When we give Jesus our time, give of our time, our talents, and resources to meet the needs of others in His name, we're doing that for Him. As His church, the church of Jesus Christ, we are the body of Christ. You hear that all the time, the body of Christ, but that's what it actually means. We are Jesus' body in this world. In this world, we are the only hands, feet, and wallets that God has available to Him. We are the ones who are supposed to be doing the work of God on earth. It's through us. We call ourselves Christians. We are literally supposed to be Christ to the world. And that's a huge responsibility. How are we doing with it? How do you think, as Christians, as a church, we're doing with the assignment of being Jesus to this world? When people in need look at us, what do they see? Do they see the same kind of love and compassion that Jesus displayed during His time here? That's what Christ wants from us. Do they see a group of people who are willing to sacrifice our time, our talents, and our wealth to help them? Do they see people who are willing to sacrifice what we have in our wallets to ease their suffering? When they encounter us, do they see Jesus, and do they experience the love of Jesus when they're around us? That's what Jesus wants for His birthday. And I love this one section of the chapter when Reverend Slaughter focuses on the words of Jesus. We all know the story. It's the feeding of the 5,000. Jesus is preaching. There's actually 20,000, or closer to 20,000 in attendance. In those days when they made a report of attendance, they only counted the men. But if you figure the average family, and it even says that's not counting the women and the children, it says that in Scripture, so chances are there were 20,000 people, and it was getting late. People were hungry. The 12 disciples told Jesus, you need to send the people somewhere so they can find food, so they can have a meal tonight. Jesus looked at them in 3 short words. He said the very powerful message. He said, you feed them. Why should they go somewhere else? Don't send them somewhere else. You feed them. And that message still resonates very strongly today. When we see a need in the world, Jesus is saying that we are the ones that are supposed to do something about it. We are supposed to send them away to find help somewhere else. We are to provide the help they need when they need it. We're not to say that God will provide. I'll pray for you. We're not supposed to tell them that we'll pray for a miracle. We are supposed to be their miracle. That's why God has put us there. We are supposed to be the answer to their prayers. We don't pray for them. We are the answer to those prayers. God works His miracles through human beings. He works His miracles through the people that call themselves Christian. We are the ones that are to provide for their needs. We are the church. We're the people of God. We are supposed to be the living body of Jesus Christ. You feed them. That's what He told the 12 disciples. And they came back and He said, well, all we have are 5 little miniature loaves of bread and 2 sardines. Now keep in mind, that's all these 12 men had between them. And they didn't have refrigerators at home, or they didn't have extra food at home in those days. It was a daily struggle to just get the food you needed each and every day. You worried about tomorrow's food tomorrow. That's all they had between the 12 of them to feed themselves that day. So Jesus is basically saying, give me everything you've got. He said, give it to me, give me everything you've got. He blessed it. And when He did, He multiplied it, and then He gave it back to them. Jesus didn't feed the people. The disciples did. They gave Him everything they had. He blessed it. He multiplied it. He gave it back to them. And 20,000 people ate to their fill. And when they were done, there were 12 baskets full of leftovers. They gave everything they had to Christ. He multiplied it, gave it back to them, and in the end they had more than what they started with. That's how God works. It's up to us to feed them. That's what Jesus is telling us. It's our job to address their needs. Jesus wants us to loosen our grip on the things that we have. He wants us to turn it over to Him, let Him multiply it, and then give it back to us, and we are to use it to do His work on this earth. We have to stop thinking the way the world tells us to. And we have to trust in Jesus and His method for helping others. We have to realize that we have so much more than we think we do. And we have to use Jesus' method for helping others. We can't go by what the world teaches us if we want to follow Christ. Because the world says doing it Jesus' way just won't work. The world says that we're to look out for me first, and then when I have everything I need and everything I want, then maybe I should start to think about helping others. The world teaches that joy and happiness are found in making sure I have everything I want. Not everything I need, everything I want. That's what the world says, and there's a difference between those two. Because the world says that once I have everything I want, then I'll be happy. The world tells me that I'll find joy by feeding my own desires. And like I said, then if I have anything left over, then maybe I can give it to somebody else. Jesus says just the opposite. He goes against the teaching of the world. Jesus says that once our needs are met, then our wants take second place to the needs of others. He tells us that the needs of others should come before our wants and desires. Now, the marketplace won't like that. That might cut back on shopping. But Jesus also tells us that is the way to true and lasting joy and happiness. That's a hard thing to get our minds around. It's hard to adjust our lifestyle to that. But if we try it, we'll find out that Jesus is right. Jesus isn't going to tell us anything that's going to hurt us and make us miserable. Everything He tells us to do is because it's the thing that's best for us and the best for others. And He tells us that true and lasting joy is found only in doing things God's way versus the world's way. The last, year or so, and I'm not tooting my own horn here, I just want to share this with you. The last year or so, I've kind of developed a different, some people say it's a weird philosophy toward things that I have. I've come to realize that everything I do have, I have only because God's made it possible for me to have it. I don't care what it is. He's given me, provided the money or put me in circumstances. Everything I have, I would have nothing if God didn't make it possible. Every possession I have because God made it possible. So if I reach a point where I no longer need something, whatever it is, and I know somebody that does need it, then I don't feel like I'm any longer the rightful owner of that object or whatever it is. I no longer have a claim on that, and if you need it, then it's yours. You can have it. God gave it to me. I don't need it anymore. It needs to go to someone who does need it. And think of all the hassle that I say. If you're going to sell it, you got to decide, okay, what am I going to ask for? What wasn't worth new? What should it be worth now? List it on Craigslist or Swap or whatever. Then you got to haggle over the price with somebody, and you got to make arrangements. It's a lot easier just to say, here it is, it's yours. Something I hear a lot when I do that almost every time is, well, surely you want something for it. And if you say that, you're right, because I do want something for it. I want the joy. I want the joy that comes along with it. I want the joy of seeing the happiness that you get from whatever it is. I want the joy of knowing that in some small way, I'm doing things the way Jesus tells me to do them. And a funny thing happens. Once you experience that joy in that small way, once you get a taste of it, you like it. And then you want more of it. And it gets you to the point that you want to do anything you possibly can to ease human suffering in the world. And And when you know that type of joy, it opens your eyes to the needs of others. Where before we were blinded by our own desires, now we actually see the person and we see the need. Where before the thought of doing something to help someone never really crossed our minds. Where before, due to our limited vision and self-focus, we thought there's nothing we could do. But now we realize and understand that we have to do something, that we can't just sit back and say, you know what, that's really sad. I'm glad I'm not that person. I'm glad I'm not in that situation. I'll never understand why God allows such things to go on. God is not turning a blind eye to the needs of people. He is doing something about it. He's speaking. He's speaking to you. He's speaking to me. He's speaking to all of us. And he's saying, you do it. You do something about it. You are my hands and feet. You are my living body right now. Today, you are me to the world. I've taken care of you so far. Trust me that I'll take care of you in the future as I always have. Take what I have already given to you and take care of the needs of others. He's not turning a blind eye. He's saying you do it. And remember when you do it, you're doing it not just for them, but you're doing it for me as well. Whatever you do for the least of these, you do for me. And he knows that's scary stuff. He knows that that's hard for us to do. He knows that it goes against everything we've ever been taught. But he's goading us. He's urging us to move past that, to trust him and take that leap of faith. I heard it said one time, it was actually at an Emmaus retreat, that behind our greatest fear lies our greatest joy. If we can just gather the courage and the fortitude to move past that fear, our greatest joy is hiding right behind it. If we trust in Jesus' love, if we trust him enough to do things his way, we'll find peace, we'll find fulfillment, we'll find joy in ways that we never thought they were attainable. Helping others, folks, that's the fun part. That's the fun part of being a Christian in this world. Helping others, that's the things we do that we get to actually see the tangible effects and outcome from it. That's the joy of Christianity, is seeing someone in need and being able to get up some morning and look in the mirror and you get a little glimpse of Jesus looking back at you. Knowing that someone has gotten a glimpse themselves of Jesus through your actions. Knowing that someone has experienced the love of Jesus. We had a run this week on Cambridge Cares. I don't know if they're turning people out of prison ahead of Christmas or what. We've had a number of young women that have been released from jail over here from out of town, and they're just stuck. They've got no money, they've got no way to get home. And Cambridge Cares has been able to help them out. There was a young girl that had an 8-month-old baby waiting at home for her. She lives in the middle of Iowa. And she told me, she said, we were parting ways, we were in Cologne, and whatever she'd done, her car was impounded, and we got her car out and got her enough gas to get her home. And I told her, go home and enjoy your first Christmas with your daughter. Have a Merry Christmas. And she said, now because of you people, I will. She got a glimpse of Jesus through the people of Cambridge who contribute to that fund. And you may not think it's much, but it all adds up. When this church donates to it, when you put money in that box over there, some of that money is going to go to Cambridge Cares. We can do something. And I want you to take that story and I want you to feel some of the joy that girl felt. Realize that you can do, or we can do together so much more. She saw Jesus maybe for the first time in her life. And when people experience that, they got to do something with it. You simply cannot ignore that. You've got to come to terms and grips with that. Jesus says, you feed them. And when you do, you're feeding me. When you clothe them, you're clothing me. When you care for the sick, you're sitting by my bedside and caring for me. When you shelter them, you're taking me. And when you bring comfort to the weary, you're comforting me. Whatever you do for the least among you today, you do it with my love, through my love, and you're doing it all for me. He's saying, that's what I want from you this year. I want you to do the work that I did when I was with you. That's why I came. I came to show you, or I came to show you the way I want you to live. I came to make sacrifices, or to sacrifice myself for you, and I want you to sacrifice yourself for others. For my birthday this year, and through all the years ahead, I want you to do the work of God on earth. That is the best gift you could ever give me. Be me to the world, to the least of those among you. I've known a church in the past, I'm going to say what it is, and it's all good and well-intentioned, but their mission statement is because the world needs, or because people need Jesus. And that sounds good. But when you think about that, it's kind of pushing the responsibility of things off on Jesus. The world needs Jesus. What the world needs are people who call themselves followers of Jesus to step up and be Jesus. That's what people need. They don't need churches telling them what it is they need. They need people of churches supplying what it is they need. They need to see Jesus in a real, lasting, and loving way. I want to close tonight by reading from 1 John. This is 1 John chapter 3, verses 16 and 18. And I think well, I know what it says, but I'm trying to drive home much better than I can myself. All I got to do is find it, and then I can read it. 1 John chapter 3. This is how we know what love is. Jesus Christ laid down his life for us. And we ought to lay down our lives for our brothers and sisters. If anyone has material possession and sees a brother or sister in need and has no pity on them, how can the love of God be in that person? Dear children, let us not love with words or speech, but with actions and in truth. Amen.